Today we're going to be crocheting this very simple basket using a can and the single crochet stitch. And this pattern does have a precursor video, and that is my DIY crochet cord. And you can find the link to this tutorial in the description. And we're going to crochet 2 cords to 6.5 inches long. And for this pattern, I am working with size 4 medium weight yarn. And these are both the Lion brand yarns Re-Up Recycled Cotton and Polyester Blend, and the colors I chose were Mineral Springs and Full Moon. I'm also working with a size G or 6 or 4.25 millimeter crochet hook. And I am working with a 46-ounce can, so this is 7 inches tall and roughly 4.25 inches in diameter. And we're going to begin by attaching the yarn to our crochet hook using a slip knot. And we're going to create a long chain rope by just placing several chains. I usually place about 50 chains at a time. And once you have your chain rope, go ahead and pull your loop out nice and long and remove your crochet hook. And when the time comes that you need to add more chains, you're just going to reinsert your crochet hook in this loop and then tighten your working yarn. And you can continue adding chains whenever necessary this way. So go ahead and grab the beginning of your chain rope, and we are going to insert our crochet hook in our first chain stitch. And with our other strand of yarn, we're going to tie a magic circle. So we're going to drape our tail over our working yarn and insert our crochet hook. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through our loop as well as through our first chain. Just like that. And now we're going to place 6 single crochets inside of our magic circle while working over our chain rope. So basically your chain is just going to line up with your stitches for this pattern. And once you have your 6 single crochets inside your magic circle, then grab a hold of your tail and pull it nice and tight to close the gap in your magic circle. I also recommend tightening up your chain stitches. From here, we're going to start a continuous loop pattern, which just means that we will not be starting and stopping our individual rows, but instead our pattern's going to act like a spiral. So I recommend grabbing a scrap piece of yarn or a stitch marker to keep up with the first stitch in every row. So we're going to begin by lining up our chain rope with our very first single crochet of this row. And we're going to place 2 single crochets inside of this stitch. We're going to make sure we're working over the chain rope as well. And I find it helps to sort of squeeze that nice and tight and pull that chain rope up so that you don't have too much of a gap there. Once you have your first 2 stitches in place, then we're going to mark the first of them, so this stitch right here. And from here, we're just going to place 2 single crochets in each stitch in our row, going all the way around. So when we're done, we should have a total of 12 single crochets. And the pattern for our next row is going to be to place 1 single crochet in our first stitch, and then 2 single crochets in our second stitch. And we're just going to continue to follow that alternating pattern going all the way around our row. And again, we want to make sure we mark that first stitch. And when you get to the end of your row, you should have a total of 18 single crochets. And the pattern for our next row is to place 1 single crochet in our first 2 stitches and then 2 single crochets in our third. And we're going to repeat that going all the way around our row, and when we get done we should have a total of 24 single crochets. And the pattern for our next row is to place 1 single crochet in our first 3 stitches and then 2 single crochets in our 4th. And after repeating that going around our row, you should have a total of 30 single crochets. And for our next row, we're going to place 1 single crochet in our first 5 stitches and then 2 single crochets in our 6th. And we're going to repeat that going around our row. And when we get done, we should have a total of 36 single crochets. And the pattern for our next row is to place 1 single crochet in our first 5 stitches and then 2 single crochets in our 6th. And we're going to repeat that going around our row. And when we get done, we should have a total of 42 single crochets. And the pattern for our next row is to place 1 single crochet in our first 6 stitches and then place 2 single crochets in our 7th. And we're going to repeat that going around our row. And when we get done, we should have a total of 48 single crochets. And at the end of your row, you can remove your stitch marker and you won't need it for a while. All we're going to do from here is just place 1 single crochet in each stitch in each of our rows to build the body of our tote. So I have a couple of notes for you. The first thing is I crocheted a total of 47 rows of placing my single crochet in each stitch. As you can see, I've also attached my handles and also inserted my can into the sleeve. So for your can, you want to make sure your sleeve wraps around your can fully and touches the bottom without much overlap. And I attached my handles to this top row and I spaced them with 8 single crochets between each handle and 16 single crochets between the handles themselves on both sides. And I just slid my tail between 2 single crochet stitches like this, and then I just tied a very lazy knot, just tying the 2 tails together, but you can of course attach it more securely if you would like. But my lazy knot will hold up when it has some weight on it, which is all I really care about. For this next part, you want to leave your can inside your sleeve and go ahead and pull your sleeve out so you can work with this top edge here. And we're also going to be marking the first stitch in each of our decreasing rows, just like we did for the increasing rows. And the pattern for this first decreasing row is to place 1 single crochet in your first 6 stitches, and then we're going to single crochet together our 7th and our 8th. And I'll show you how to do that. Once you have your 6 single crochets in place and you've marked your first stitch, then to single crochet your following 2 stitches together, all you're going to do is insert your crochet hook up underneath the first stitch and yarn over and pull up through the stitch. Then insert your crochet hook up underneath that 8th stitch and yarn over and pull up through. So you should have 3 loops on your crochet hook. From here, we're just going to yarn over and drop all 3 loops to complete our stitch. So from here, we're just going to repeat that pattern going all the way around our row. And when we get done, we should have 42 single crochets. And the pattern for our next row is to place 1 single crochet in our first 5 stitches. And then we're going to single crochet together our 6th and our 7th stitch. And we're going to repeat this going around our row. And when we get done, we should have a total of 36 single crochets. And the pattern for the next row is to place 1 single crochet in the first 4 stitches, and then we're going to single crochet together our 5th and our 6th stitch. And we should have a total of 30 single crochets at the end of our row. And for the next row, we're going to place 1 single crochet in our first 3 stitches. Then we're going to single crochet together the 4th and the 5th stitch. And when we get to the end of the row, we should have a total of 24 single crochets. And the pattern for our next row is to place 1 single crochet in our first 2 stitches, and then we're going to single crochet together our 3rd and our 4th stitch. And at the end of our row, we should have a total of 18 single crochets. And for our next row, we're going to place 1 single crochet in our first stitch and then single crochet together our 2nd and our 3rd. And we're going to repeat that going around our row. And when we get done, we should have a total of 12 single crochets. And for our next row, we're just going to single crochet 2 stitches together, and when we get done, we should have a total of 6 single crochets. And we're just going to repeat that last row one more time, and we should have a total of 3 single crochets. And for our next step, we're going to pull out our chains until we have one little loop sticking out. Then we're going to insert our crochet hook in our little loop and cut and tie off both strands of yarn. And I am just going to draw these 2 strands of yarn to the inside of the sleeve. And you're just going to tuck your sleeve back in and smooth out any wrinkles in the bottom of your can. Please let me know in the comments below if you experienced any issues while you were making this can basket, and I will do my best to help you out. If this video helped you, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel, Crochet with Julie. Thank you so much for working with me, and I hope you have a wonderful, awesome day.